I would like to welcome you all at this panel discussion organized by Google in cooperation with Book World Fair. Let me ask Janka Zichová, PR manager of Czech Google, to explain the reason for organizing this discussion. Good afternoon and welcome everyone. I am very happy to see that so many of you have arrived. Last fall we realized that product called Google Books is quite complicated and became a complex issue for the representatives of book industry. Especially in the context of progressively developing new technologies, Google Books seems very hard to understand. Because of all of these reasons, we decided to increase the level of communication and education. We would like to provide people with relevant information and facts according to which they can decide. At the moment, the public is afraid of using Google Books, but they can't say why. The situation causes fear, myths, prejudice, and so on. For all these reasons, we decided to come here today, organize this panel discussion, and invite our keynote speaker from London in hope of providing valuable insight. The only foreign speaker participating at this discussion is Mr. Santiago de la Mora.
The goal for Google Books is to be able to give our users across the world access and find as many books as possible. The whole catalog of books. I'm sure it's very ambitious, new topic, but I think that's the goal, so that a user across the world will be able to find every single book. In the physical distribution, you have limited shelf space. You can only carry a limited number of books. Whereas online, you can have a much wider bookshelf, so you can carry more books. And on a more permanent basis, whereas online, you can put everything offline, you have to rotate constantly. So I think the benefits of the online bookshelf is very clear to publishers. With regards to piracy, we of course take piracy very seriously. We have more than 30,000 partnerships and more than 2 million books in the partner program. So for 5 years, so it's something that we strive against every day. I think what's interesting is that we have mechanisms. For example, the image that you see is a low resolution image. So, and the reason to show a low resolution image is because what we want is to give people a taste of the book, but not a replacement to the book. So that's something that is quite clear and to anybody. The other one that is interesting is the books are always hosted by us. So the books never leave Google servers, never, which is also a reassuring fact for the publisher.
The cooperation of Grada Publishing Company with Google has many results. Unique service, which only one more Czech publisher acquired. Higher sales resulting from a new consumer group which doesn't buy printed books, and increased visit rate of our web page. Participating in Google Books program has many clear advantages. Regarding the piracy issue, I would not completely agree with Mr. De La Mora. On one hand, he is right that the data cannot leave the Google Books server. On the other hand, there are many ways of copying them. It is not possible to keep all data protected, but there are ways to complicate illegal copying. Both the copyright owner and the publisher have to accept this fact and take the piracy as a possible business risk. According to rumors, all the existing texts, entire books, and even their translations have been posted on Google Books without the approval of authors or cooperation with publishers. That is not true. When you check the website, you will never find a complete text which can be fully downloaded. The Czech book market has a specific position regarding the partnership program with publishers. Unlike in the US, copyright is owned by the authors here. Many authors and translators close contracts with publishers for a period of 5 years, and after that time, rights go back to the author or translator. Once the contract is over, it is not specified how to deal with this issue further. Even during the period when copyright is held by the publisher, there are no rules specifying what to do and how to deal with copyright in online world. As I understand Google Books partnership program, the only risky part for publishers may lie in providing a limited view of their books. Question is whether extra smart users can misuse these snippets and download the whole text. But this is part of the business risk. Secondly, I would like to stress out the problem which occurred in the world of music and film industry. Talking about piracy, both industries experience a breakdown point when a huge number of works has been digitalized and broadcast online. Ever since data started going digital, films and music have been very easily copied and distributed over the internet. This kind of breakdown has not happened in book industry yet. Therefore, this is the right moment to figure out the right precautions and put them into practice. The issue we are discussing is very complicated. As mentioned before, authors have their own rights. We work with copyright and variety of publishing licenses which differ with almost every publisher. There are many publishers in the Czech Republic, a huge range of book production. Over 17,500 new books published last year and contracts varying in quality. Most of the publishers only buy copyright for the printed copies from authors and only a handful tries to buy copyright for online distribution as well. This is in accordance with paragraph 18 section 2 of the copyright law. In the case the publisher holds copyright to a certain book, they can sell a sub-license of this copyright, for example to Google. Approximately 50 to 70% of the publishers do not buy this license for online distribution, and therefore, if you want to publish the book online, you need to approach the individual author or eventually his or her inheritors. The whole situation is obviously complicated because book industry representatives are not managed by a collective body. Every author works with his or her copyright separately. For all these reasons, it is complicated to represent authors and provide copyright licenses for online distribution of their book from one center. This issue opens another discussion. Fra Publishing Company is representing small publishers at this panel discussion. As a small company, we have published all our materials, including new books, online. Even though the number of our poetry readers is very limited, this group is very active and cohesive. Digitalizing our books didn't cause any harm. People buy physical books at the same volume, and at the same time we were able to attract a wider audience. This means that coexistence of printed and online versions of book works well. Me as an author will be using limited view of my books rather than publishing the whole book. This has many positive aspects for me as a poet and doesn't cause any harm.
We deal with whoever has the copyright to promote those titles. Be it in most cases the publisher, in some other cases if the rights have reverted or they don't have a publisher, then it'll be the author. The other point that I would like to make a distinction on is online promotion of books and online sales of books, because I think that's very, very different. And you were mentioning digital rights, and I think there are some cases where you have in the contracts, depending on every contract, every country is different, But in some cases, the publishers have obtained from the authors the right to promote titles. So let's say do an online promotion for a physical book, for a sale of a physical book. And the other one would be the traditional digital rights for online promotion and sale of books. In the case of Google Books today, it's the former. It's online promotion for the sale of physical books. It's not an online promotion and sale. So I think in terms of digital rights, there's a distinction that should be made, and then one author and a publisher talk about it. I think they should be aware that we're talking about not selling ebooks, but rather promoting titles for physical books.
Elektronické knihy ušetří oproti papírovým výrobní náklady v tiskárně.
Producing online books saves printing costs of physical books. It represents around 10 to 15% of the price of a physical book in Western Europe. Moreover, book producers can save distribution costs. Share of these costs at the price of a physical book is around 40%. However, Google and Amazon charge 35% for distribution costs, which means very little saving. This is why I don't think that electronic books are that much cheaper than printed books. The question of production costs is not as important as the customer's points of view, the value perceived in him or her, and how much he or she is willing to pay for the book. Value of the book perceived by the customer does not necessarily reflect real production costs. It will depend on other aspects, whether the e-book will be only available for his or her usage and household, whether it will be available only for a limited period of time, month, year, or whether there will be no limits. All these aspects have not been answered yet. I don't believe that e-books will be purchased by the same group of readers as printed books are. In 2007, the Czech Academy of Science made a research which shows us who buys books most often and how frequently. According to this research, the youngest generation doesn't belong among people who buy books. This would be the only assumption that can support the statement of decreasing number of physical books sold.
Samozřejmě jakoby přesně z pohledu toho studenta, jako on má také jako na té koleji omezený prostor, kam ty knížky...
From a student point of view, there is limited space at dorm for storing books.
Právě teda Google Books používáme proto, aby jsme...
Therefore, we invest into school libraries, and we use Google Books in order to find right books which we want to buy to the library. The cooperation with schools works really well. Students represent potential future buyers because while writing theses, they work very often with international sources. Students would be very happy to pay $3 or $10 to be able to have hundreds of books in their computer.
I think choice is good in the sense that for readers, having a very wide selection, being able to choose from 2 million or 12 million books, that can only be good, especially for the ones who are looking for very precise, niche type of books. From an author perspective, being able to be on an equal footing between Kundera and Janusz unknown, that's good. I think good for a healthy ecosystem. And a retailer, be it physical or online, who's able to sell not only a limited number of books, but books in all kinds of languages, and vice versa. Being able to sell Czech language content abroad can only be good for the dissemination of culture and ultimately towards increasing the sale of books or the consumption of books. Because I think this is an opportunity for that. The internet will lead to more people reading rather than fewer people. We don't know how. It could be a mobile phone, could be a dedicated reader, could be an iPad, could be a tablet, or it could be a physical book. But what's most important is to have people reading books rather than focusing on reading print books.
Tak to bylo poslední.
This was the